I once was a producer for the show Thomas & Friends by Britt Allcraft and David Mitten. I was the man in charge of looking over the episodes, watching them before they were aired to see if there were any changes in somewhat. But there was one episode that startled me and scarred me for the rest of my life. It was during the shoot of one episode for Season 3. It was supposed to take place after the events of Henry's Forest. David Mitten took me aside and gave me a VHS. This is one of our new episodes. Take a look and let's see what you think. And so, I took the VHS, went to my office, and took a look. The episode was called 984867, which was a bit surprising as every other episode had a name to it. This one only had a number. And so, I popped in the VHS, and what I saw would change my life forever. The episode began with the usual Thomas & Friends intro, and then it cut to a scene at Titmutt's sheds. But it seemed less busier as it was usually seen in Season 3. I could only see, like, 2 engines. The Markland engine, one of our background engines, and a tank engine, looking very similar to Thomas, but he was painted dark green with yellow stripes. I couldn't make out his number or his face. He was just puffing in the background, shunting some trucks. And then, the main engine of the episode. He was in the middle of Titmutt's sheds. And as the camera panned into view of him, I got a good look at him. He was a hybrid engine. He was painted blue with black and white stripes. He had Henry's wheels, James's boiler, Donald and Douglas's funnel, and a long tender. And then it cut to a scene under his cab, where it showed his number, 984867, the same number as the episode's title. Was this episode about a new character? I thought. His face showed shyness, but happiness. But he looked a bit shy and sad, too. Then Sir Tom Hack came into view. 984862, he said, you must take a passenger train, and New Express. 984867 was pleased. Okay, sir, I can do it, he said. He sounded shy, but still went to do it. And with the blast of his whistle, which was something I'd never heard before, he puffed away to collect his train. It then cut to a scene of Knapford, and then it showed Edward passing by with a freight train, and then it panned to see the coaches. There were 8 coaches that looked like branch line coaches, like the ones in Edward's exploit. I was confused as they were not express coaches, like in Gordon's episodes, but it showed the passengers boarding it. It then cut to a scene of 984867 as he backed down onto the train. He had his same face, and was a bit shy about it, but then all the passengers climbed aboard the coaches, and then it showed 984867's driver. Alright, 984867, go at it, he said. Alright, driver, I can do it, the engine said, and with another blast of his whistle, he puffed away into the night. His wheels slipped a bit, but he kept on going. It then cut to a scene of him rushing down the line and out of the station. It cut to a few scenes of him rushing in the countryside, his wheels whirring into life, and his funnel puffing smoke into the air. 984867 was puffing like it was the end of the world. He was puffing very fast, and the train was rattling and rocking behind him. And then cut to a scene of him puffing through Wellsworth. And then it cut to a scene of him rushing over a bridge. It didn't look like the viaduct, but it was a different bridge. And then it showed a scene of him arriving at Elsbridge. As he puffed into the station, he looked very pleased with himself. But it then cut to a scene of his driver and the station master. "You're 5 minutes late. Make sure to be back on time, he said. 984867's driver looked a bit concerned. Oh boy, we must be on time, he said. His engine didn't respond. He now looked more nervous. His eyes were jittering from side to side, as if worried about something, possibly about being late. And then the guard blew his whistle, and 984867 puffed away again. This time his wheels were whirring much more fiercely this time as he left the station. And then it cut to a scene of him running in the countryside again. This time, however, it was different. As he puffed through Henry's forest, it then cut to a scene of his wheels, and with every few seconds, they got faster and faster. It then cut to a wide shot scene, and 984867 was flying down the line. I had never seen an engine go so fast on the show. But then it cut to a scene of him entering a tunnel, blowing in the wind. But it then cut to a completely different location, and it showed a Tang engine waiting on a station that I've never seen before. The Tang engine was very similar to Thomas, but was painted red with black with red stripes. He had a red 00 on his side tanks, and behind him were two black and white coaches. Alright, 00, we must be on time at Knapford, said his driver. Sure thing, driver, he said. And with a blast of his whistle, which sounded like a mix between Edward and Thomas's whistle, 00 puffed away. It then cut back to the onrushing express train. However, this time, 984867 was flying down the line at an unimaginable speed. It then cut to a scene of him veering off the main line onto a different track, which he made was the way he was going, actually. But then, it cut to a sign that said, "Slow down," for oncoming trains. His driver leaned out of his cab. Alright, 984867, we must slow down. But 984867 didn't respond. Instead, he blasted past the sign. Oh boy, what's up? Said his driver. He didn't say anything. He just kept on going. It then showed his wheels, which were whirring so fast that you could not even tell where they were actually going. And then it showed the coaches rattling and shaking violently as he puffed along the line at his speed. It then showed the brake coach, and a squeaking noise could be heard. It would look like the guard was applying the brakes, but it was no use. The engine was going so fast that the brakes on the coaches couldn't even help themselves. He was going so fast. The runaway theme was being played in the background, but 984867 didn't stop or even slow down. He kept going faster and faster down the line. It then cut back to 00 and his train, as they were too puffing down the line. I then realized that they were going on the same line as 984867's train. However, they were going much slower than the oncoming express train, and 00 looked like he was enjoying himself, not wondering about what was going to happen next. It then cut back to 984867's train. He was flying down the line. The coaches were shaking violently, and then it showed his driver leaning out of his cab. Oh boy, we must slow down! Please! He said. But the driver couldn't do nothing, as 984867 was flying down the line and wasn't even paying attention to his driver. It then cut to a scene of inside his cab. His cab was swaying violently to show how fast he was going. And then it cut back to 00 and his train. As they rounded a curve, his face then turned from happiness to horror as he saw the oncoming express train rushing straight at him. He blew his whistle and applied his brakes. He was slowing down, but 984867 didn't even show signs of slowing down. The episode began to take a much darker turn. Please, 984867, stop! Said the driver. It then cut to a scene of 984867's face. He looked extremely sad, but that wasn't the worst bit. His eyes were completely black, and black tears were streaming down his face. And then he said words in a very high-pitched, sadness voice. "No, no, no!" he screamed, but the last no was more echoey. It then cut to a scene that the two trains were racing at each other. And then, at the moment of impact, it cut to a scene of Titmouth Station. And then, I could hear in the background the sound of a massive explosion and crash, and the screams of the passengers as they were killed. And then, on the far right of the screen, I could see an explosion in the background. It then cut to a scene of Tom Hat looking at an article, saying, "Two trains collide between two new stations. All on board are killed." I was shocked. All of them were killed? The 8 coaches of 984867's train? The 2 coaches on 00's train? It then cut to the scenes of the accident. The rails looked severed, and it cut to a scene of the last coach of 984867's train as it was teetering off the edge. The coach was heavily burned and looked like it was completely burned up. A huge hole was in its roof as it teetered along the edge. It then showed a side of the mountainside. The mountainside was littered with wooden coaches, all burst into pieces, wheels everywhere, flames, smoke. No bodies were seen. Luckily, no bodies were seen exactly, as this episode had gone a much darker turn for little children. It then cut to a scene of the side of 00, his number scratched out. And on the other side, and in the background, I could see his other side. The impact had caused the tank engine to be ripped literally in two. And then it cut to a scene that I would never forget. A scene of 984867, or what was left of him. Scolding steam was bursting out of what was ever left of him, and all that was left of him was his tender, a battered and rusted remains of what he once was. His whistle, I could hearing in the background, but was growing fainter and fainter as the scenes of the accidents were showed. And then, as it panned onto his tender, it cut to black. But the episode was not over just yet. It then cut to a scene of the same area where I saw the teetering coach, the burned out coach of the train. But then, it then showed a line closed sign on it, and on the bottom right, I could see a little message on it. For all 57 those who lost their lives on the day of the accident. And then it cut to black again. And then for a brief second, an image was shown. And it looked like an image of the trains tumbling down the hill. The next scene took place in present day, as said in the time card. But this time, it showed timid sheds. But now, I could hear clanking, and the sound of an engine's puffing, getting louder and louder. It then showed scenes of 984867's final journey. Knapford, Wellsworth, Elsbridge, the siding, and then it cut to a scene of the accident site. The line closed sign had rusted away, and then it cut to a scene of the scrapyard. The clanking and the puffing were getting louder and louder, and then it cut to a scene of a battered steam engine's tender, and on it I could just faintly make out the words 6-7 on them. It was 984867's tender. And then, in the background, I could see a building with his number painted right on it. And then, the clanking got even louder. But then it stopped. It cut back to his tender. And then, the other half of 984867 materialized. He was wearing the same face that he wore on the day he died. The black face with the tears streaming down his face in black. He looked extremely sad. His pistons were ripped apart. His boiler was smashed and cracked. His paint job was all chipped and rusted away. He was clearly crying. You could just hear the whimpers of him as he cried away. And then, the episode cut to black one final time with the blast of 984867's whistle. And the episode ended with the credits. I was shocked from what I saw. And then I went to David Minton, asking him, why did you make this episode? He said that he wanted to make it look more realistic. But I said, it was too realistic for little children to see. David Minton and Brett Allcraft talked it over with me, and then they finally agreed that it was too dark for little children, and the episode was never aired. I later came to figure out that the episode was going to be called The Wreck at the New Station. But that wasn't the end of it for me. I quit my job as I was too traumatized from what I saw in the episode to even go back to the episodes. I had never seen that episode since, but every night, every time I go to sleep, I have nightmares about what I saw. One night, I fell asleep, and then I woke up in a dream. I was on the tracks, somewhere near the actual wreck site, as if I was on Sodor. And then I looked to one side, I saw 00 rushing straight at me, having his horrified face on. And then I looked to my other side, and I saw that dreaded face of 984867, screaming his last words. One other dream, I was one of the passengers on board the trains. And the other time, I was on the mountainside, watching as the two trains collided in a massive explosion, and as the coaches just shattered down the mountainside. I warn you, if you ever see an episode called 984867, don't you dare watch it. His ghost has haunted me for the rest of my life. And I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this, but I've been haunted by his last words. Hallucinations of him have been appearing in my house. There's nothing I can do now. He will haunt me for the rest of my life. Please, whatever you do, do not watch that episode. 984867 will haunt me forever.